Today on the other Bible. One thing I want to make clear to everyone is there are only two Bibles, the King James Bible and the other Bible, which includes all the rest, about 260, 265 different retranslations. And when I say retranslations, that's exactly what I mean. I'm going to read you the cover page from a New American Standard Bible. This is what it says. It says, "The Holy Bible, Revised Standard Version, containing the Old and New Testaments, translated from the original tongues, being the version set forth AD 1611. That's the King James Bible. Revised 1881 to 1885 and 1901. The first revision was an English revision, the Revised Standard. The 1901 is the American Standard, which was revised again in 1952. This is what the cover page says. Compared with the most ancient authorities and revised." Now we're going to talk about those ancient authorities because one of the criticisms of the King James Bible is they did not use ancient authorities. They used some early manuscripts. And when I say early manuscripts, they used later ones, or they didn't use the oldest. When they say the oldest is the best, they say they didn't use the oldest. But we're going to show you today that they did. The King James did use the oldest. Luke 2:14. Luke 2:14. We'll start there. And I have several. Maybe I'll make this a two-parter. Luke 2:14. It says, "Glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men." Now, the other Bible, the other retranslations say, "Peace among men with whom he is well pleasing." Well, we have a footnote under that, under the NIV and the New American Standard. It says, "Ancient manuscripts say, peace, goodwill toward all men." That's exactly what the King James says. Exactly. Ancient manuscripts. The other Bible changes it to peace among men with whom he is well pleasing. They changed it. When in the retranslation, they changed it. And they admit the oldest translations say peace, goodwill toward all men, exactly as the King James says in Luke 2:14. Mark 6:11 says, "And whosoever shall not receive you, nor hear you when ye depart thence, shake off the dust under your feet for a testimony against them." Now here's the verse, or this is the phrase that they leave out. "Verily I say unto you, it shall be more tolerable for Sodom and Gomorrah in the day of judgment." That phrase is left out of the modern retranslations. But let's look what it says. Some early manuscripts, these are the manuscripts that they claim the King James uses only, not the oldest. Some early manuscripts do not say this. They're the ones who left it out. The King James says it, other Bibles leave it out. So the King James must have used the ancient manuscripts at this verse, Mark 6:11. John 5:3. "In these lay a great multitude of impotent folk, of blind, halt, and withered." Now this is the part the other Bible leaves out. "Waiting for the moving of the water, for an angel went down." This is verse 7. That was verse 3. This is verse 4, "For an angel went down at a certain season into the pool and troubled the water. Whosoever first after the troubled of the water stepped in was made whole of whatsoever disease he had." There's a miracle there. that takes place. The other Bible leaves that out. It's in the King James. It's there, verses 3 and 4. It says in the footnote, in the NIV, other ancient authorities have this. It's the oldest one. It has that phrase, waiting for the moving of the water, and then all of verse 4. Later manuscripts omit this, and the other Bible omits it. They use the early manuscripts, or the later ones. The King James used the oldest, which was one of the Knox textual critics, judgers. Criticism means to judge. They say the King James did not use ancient manuscripts, but they did. Verse 7 of John 5 tells of the miracle, the troubling of the water. It's verified. There's a miracle there. Did Jesus say those words or not? That's the key thing. He did. He said them. And he said them in the ancient manuscripts, which the King James used. John 3:13. And no man hath ascended up to heaven, but he that came down from heaven, even the Son of Man. And here's a little prepositional phrase, which is in heaven. That's left out of the other Bible, but it's in the King James. So let's see what the footnote says. The scholars in the footnote say ancient manuscripts add this phrase. Well, then why didn't they use it if it's there in the ancient manuscripts and that's what they're going to use? Why didn't they use it? And how did they know they added it? It was in the ancient manuscripts. It wasn't added. It's there to be used. And then they say some manuscripts, they don't say ancient, some manuscripts read who is in heaven. Well, then they didn't compare all their manuscripts. They just left it out. It's not there. In some of the other Bible, in the other Bible, some of the retranslate, it's not there, but it's in the King James. Matthew 5:22. I hope I'm going slow enough for you. If not, email me or write me. My email's on the post there in this Bible Institute. Matthew 5:22. But I say unto you that whosoever is angry with his brother, and this prepositional phrase is left out, without a cause, that's left out of the other Bible, the other retranslations of the King James, shall be in danger of the judgment. Okay, let's see what the footnote says. The footnote says, ancient authorities read without a cause. That's what the King James reads, without a cause. Or they say some manuscripts read this way. See, well, if it's in the manuscript and God said it, we should have it. John 6:44. John 6:44. And seek not the honor that cometh from God only. John 6:44. And seek not the honor that cometh from God only. Cometh, it's in italics. And reasons it's in italics, because it wasn't in the manuscripts, any of the manuscripts. Early manuscripts read, instead of from God only, they read the only one. They don't say the only God, they say the only one. The NIV reads, in the footnote, say the one and only God. They add one to only God. Most of all the retranslations say from God only. So it's just a discrepancy and a distraction to say that it doesn't say it that way, but that's what the manuscripts say, from God only. And by the way, the word cometh comes from God, honor comes from God, is in italics, but in the other retranslations, it's not in italics. They just put it in there like it's part of the text. John 8:39. John 8:39. Jesus saith unto them, and this is left out what he said, if you were Abraham's children, that's left out, and then the rest of the verse. The early manuscripts read this way. They read, and Jesus saith unto them, of course we have to know what he said, if you were Abraham's children. Well, the King James reads that way, and so does the retranslations. They read that way. So all of the manuscripts that were available, the oldest and the new, were used by the King James translators. They use all the manuscripts, the oldest ones and the newer ones. So there's not a discrepancy in manuscripts that were used. John 8:17. John 8:17. Midway through the verse, but I say, the Father that sent me. Ancient manuscripts read the Father or Father. It's just like the King James says. The retranslations, they read the same way. The Father. The Father. But I and the Father. So they use it. King James used the ancient. So did the retranslations. They use the ancient. The Revised Standard reads, he, not God. He, or not Father. He. They leave out Father. You see, this textual judging, they even go against their own rules. The King James didn't go against the rules. The King James follows the rules for textual criticism or textual judging of which words are the words closest to the original. John 10:29. My Father which gave them me. John 10:29. My Father which gave them me, and that's as far as I'm going in the verse. The early manuscripts read, what the Father has given me. They say, the footnote says, early manuscripts read, what the Father has given me. None of the King James doesn't say that. The other Bible doesn't say that. It's to just throw that in there to distract you. All the Bibles, all the retranslations read Father. I'm sorry. Yeah. My Father. My Father. Not what the Father. What the Father. It just says my Father. All of them say that. The King James and the ones who copied the King James. John 9:35. Dost thou believe on the Son of God? Dost thou believe on the Son of God? That's towards the end of the verse. Ancient manuscripts say Son of God. The other Bible, the retranslations say Son of Man. That's an error. Doctrinal error. Yes, God, Jesus is the Son of Man, but here it says the ancient manuscripts read Son of God. God and man, two different Greek words. Somebody made a mistake somewhere. I'm talking about accuracy of the Bible, and the King James is accurate with the ancient translations, or the ancient manuscripts. John 13:32. John 13:32. If God be glorified in him, God shall also glorify him in himself, and shall straightway glorify him. If God be glorified in him, in the retranslations of the Bible, 1881, 1885, 1901, 1952, they leave that phrase out. If God be glorified in him. Well, what does the footnote says? The footnote says many early manuscripts omit this, so they omit it. But the King James has it, and so does the other Bible. They all include it. So they didn't go by the rules. Nobody went by the rules. The King James used it, and the retranslators used it right along with the King James. It's okay. It should be there. God said it. John 7:8. John chapter 7, verse 8. Go ye up to the feast. I go not up yet unto the feast, for my time is not yet full come. In the modern translations or retranslations, the first yet is left out. Well, what did the footnotes say? What do the textual critics, the textual judges say? Some early manuscripts omit yet. Some early manuscripts, see, the knock is against the King James, they use the early manuscripts. Well, it says the early manuscripts omit it. Well, it's there, King James, you must have used the ancient ones. The NIV doesn't have yet, so it used the early manuscripts. It didn't compare with the ancient manuscripts. Some of the other Bible says yet, some of them. Not all of them. You have to go and read them yourself. I'll just take their word for it. The King James used it, so they used the oldest manuscripts at this verse also. John 7:52. Search and look for out of Galilee ariseth no prophet. The key thing here is ariseth no prophet. Early manuscripts, which the textual critics say the King James uses only the early ones, they don't use the ancient ones. Well, the early manuscripts say the prophet. The ancient manuscript uses no prophet. Well, that's what the King James used, no prophet. They use the ancient manuscripts. You see, and I believe the NIV says the prophet. That's the only one. And they use the early manuscripts. So they don't even adhere to their own rules. Mark 1:1. Mark 1:1 and 1:2. I'll take each one separately. Mark 1:1 says the beginning of the gospel of Jesus Christ, the Son of God. Some manuscripts say, some manuscripts say Son of God. Well, folks, if it's in the manuscript and God said it, then they should include it. Well, they put a footnote there and say, well, some do and some don't, making you doubt whether it was there or not. Well, King James puts it in there with no footnote. The New American Standard puts a footnote, says some do and some don't. Some say it, some don't. NIV. In other words, they're drawing attention to maybe it's there and maybe it's not. Maybe you don't have all of God's words. That's what textual criticism does. It makes you doubt what God said. The King James never says that. It just says this is what God said. Thus saith the Lord. Although all the King James and all the other retranslations say the Son of God. They all say it. Mark 1:2, the next verse. As it is written in the prophets, plural, the retranslations, or the other Bible says prophet, Isaiah. Well, you have two prophets there that are quoted, two Old Testament references, Isaiah chapter number 40, verse number 3, and Malachi 3:1. There's two prophets there, not one, two prophets. But yet they say Isaiah the prophet. They give credit to Malachi 3:1 as Isaiah saying that. Isaiah didn't say that. Malachi said that. Oh, the games that people play with the manuscripts. Yes. All to throw a distraction to you, to get you to doubt what God said. Ephesians 1:1. Ephesians 1:1. To the saints which are at Ephesus. Well, let's see what the early manuscripts say. The early manuscripts don't have the word Ephesus. That's the newer manuscripts. Well, it's there in the King James, so they must have used the ancient manuscripts. And by the way, the retranslation, the other Bible, it has Ephesus also. So there's another distraction. None of them, all of them say Ephesus. All the Bibles, I don't want to say all of them, most of the other retranslations of the King James say at Ephesus. Philippians 2:6. Philippians 2:6. No, I don't want to use that one. Philippians, let's do Colossians 3:6. Excuse me, Colossians 3:6. For which things sake the wrath of God cometh on the children of disobedience. Cometh on the children of disobedience. The footnote in the New American Standard says, two of the early manuscripts do not contain on the sons of disobedience. Now watch this. The NIV reads that in their footnote, early manuscripts read this way. One says it doesn't, and the other one says it does. And they're early manuscripts. So apparently, the King James used the oldest and the ancient manuscripts because it says, cometh on the children of disobedience. Oh, games they play, the games they play. One says it doesn't, and the other says it does, and neither one of them, they don't follow their own rules. That's why I say it's a vain philosophy. Biblical criticism and biblical textual criticism, criticism means to judge. They do not follow their own rules. Let's see. Yeah, so those are some verses that I looked at and have studied. These are not the only ones. I probably could give you another 1,500 where there's a discrepancy between new manuscripts and the old manuscripts. And when it's the old manuscripts, the King James says exactly as the ancient manuscripts say. So their claims that the King James didn't use the old manuscripts, they're wrong. They did. And the newer Bibles, the modern Bibles, the retranslations of the King James, use the early manuscripts. They did not use the older manuscripts. That's the game they play. And that's why I say, if you want all of what God said, you need to read the King James. If you want what God said 75% of the time, you might read one of the other Bibles. 25% of what God said has been either changed or left out completely, especially about calling him the Son of God and not the Son of Man, especially about miracles. They left out the miracle, the troubling of the water. That's supernatural. Remember we said textual criticism, biblical criticism came out of the age of reasoning, which doubted any supernaturalistic things that could happen. That's why those verses were left out. They doubt God's words. They doubt miracles. They doubt that Jesus was God. Especially at 1 Timothy 3:16. God who was manifest in the flesh. And it's talking about Christ. He is God. They say he or who. He or who. They leave out the word God. Well, it's been interesting today. And I hope I've got across to you what the other retranslations have done. And they are retranslations. They say it in their own cover page. that they used the King James and then revised it with the so-called ancient manuscripts and the early manuscripts, and they don't follow their own rules. All right, thank you very much. I'm glad you watched today. Come back again next time. And on my other page, the Monarch Bible Ministry, we're still looking at the Hebrew names of God in the Old Testament. And so, thanks for watching today. I'm glad you were with me. I hope you've been enlightened in your mind about who has, what Bible has all of God's words preserved and inspired. The King James. The retranslated Bibles, they don't have it. They leave them out or add words or change words around, or claim something said it and it didn't, or claim something didn't say it and it did say it. Those are games that the scholars like to play because they think they are the authority when God is the authority. Thanks for watching today, and always remember, let God be true, but every man a liar. Thanks for watching today. See you next time.